Okay. Let's go into part 2 of Paul's video. Um, Reporting live from my sofa is his channel.
Best way to get this case to end successfully, in my experience, is to convince everybody that you have changed your mind and that you are going to do what they tell you to do.
Oh my God.
And then when you get your child back, you leave that hospital and you never ever go back.
Bordering on pack up and move. Okay. Sadly, unfortunately, when you get caught in the thing like this and you're not one of the people who needs to be in the system, right? Like you have legitimately done something to your child, you got to play the game. You gotta play the game. Do I agree with it? No. Am I saying that she did something wrong by this? No. I get all perspectives of it, but it's so sad to hear this reality of you have to convince everyone that you changed your mind, that you did this, and when you get her back, you don't ever go back to that hospital again, which obviously would never go back myself, right? But it's a harsh reality, and this is the part that watching this that I was like, my heart breaks for Beata because I just felt like she just couldn't. That part was such a sting to her.
It's so shameful that these doctors and nurses, in air quotes, because that woman didn't even fucking work for the hospital, couldn't even go to Wikipedia and look up the definition of complex regional pain syndrome. Holy shit. I don't know that I necessarily agree with the treatment that was approved for this child, but I don't know that what I'm getting is right in my situation. I've been struggling with this too, so I don't know what the answer is, but I don't think injecting your child with incredibly harsh drugs is the right answer to treating a pain condition that is caused by a trauma, right? So she's experienced a trauma. Have you done the nerve testing?
Be like, I have to let my daughter suffer right now in order to help her, right? It was just like against that mother thing in her. Now, here's the thing during all of this, the husband, the father, Jack, he's allowed to visit, right? He's not being separated from her. Now, there are a list of rules that go along with this, right? So he can't ask about treatments. He can't, ask about when she's talking about when she's coming home, things of this nature. And the visits are very brief.
The visit was very brief. And it was very difficult because I seen her condition just going downhill.
So now her condition keeps getting worse, right? Which is rare to see in these cases. Not rare, I mean, I'm acting like I know, right? But just from what I've seen, on these shows we watch, usually if this is a case of that, the child's gonna just start getting better.
No. Look, I have the condition, Pa. And it goes up and down. Sometimes you have good days and sometimes you have bad days. And there are times when you're completely dysfunctional for days at a time because you're in so much pain. So I hope they do more research on this particular condition because it's pretty bad. It's hard. And I don't know how next year, at the end of my workers' comp, I'm going to actually be able to maintain a job because of the things that happen to me. The pain cycles, the lethargy, the fact that some days I have good days, but they're not great. I still can't walk properly. I feel for Maya.
Right, where it's hold on a second, the parent's gone, this, whatever. But she's getting worse, okay? Now, her brother also would go and he would speak in the documentary, and he's like, yeah, she just seemed like she wasn't herself. She didn't want to be there. I mean, can you blame her? I mean, she was literally in this hospital for over 3 months, okay? It sounds utterly horrifying for a child that age, or for anybody, but especially a child. I mean, come on. So while all this is going on, the system is working against them.
And I felt it was important that Beata understood the seriousness of this. So I warned her in our medical probability that Maya would die a slow, painful death.
So, as you just saw, as you just heard, while she's in the hospital, her original doctor is like looking at the ramifications of this and like, oh, wait a second.
Oh my God, even. What an irresponsible doctor. We're not going to fucking die. We're just living in pain. Can you figure out how to relieve our pain without drugging us all day? Oh my God. We're not on death's door, for fuck's sake.
Like, she's doing this, she can form these blood clots. This is really, really bad. This can go downhill. So his decision to tell the mother this, what do you do? It's like, yes, we need to know, but you can see where that was like fuel on the fire for her. Because they're basically saying, like, look, they're going to kill your daughter, right? This is what she has. They're choosing to ignore that. That would have sent me over the edge if I was Beata, okay? Over the edge. Now, on that note, let's move on to another character, another person in the saga. So another layer to the onion, if you will. Okay, so a social worker at the hospital is assigned to Maya. Let's just get into it.
Was assigned to my daughter.
Please state your name for the record.
Catherine RBD.
Something didn't seem right with her.
Well, you can say that again. Something definitely wasn't right with her. So yeah, something doesn't feel right. That fatherly parent, or most of us had that too, of like, my spidey senses are going off. Something is like, what's up with this woman? So he starts doing some research on her.
So we Googled her name.
Here's what a new gutter system costs, including gutters, downspouts.
The first thing that came up was she was arrested for child abuse.
Can't roll my eyes hard enough at this, y'all. This part right here, y'all, sent me off the sofa and into a tailspin. Okay, I was like, she what? And she's in charge of what? Okay, so I seen on this whole cake, right, of this whole story, is here this hospital is they doing this, oh, you're abusing her, you're doing this, you're blah, 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 blah. But now they have put a person who is going to be in direct contact and care of Maya, who has child abuse allegations or former ones against her. Now, the only reason that she was really able to continue working is because the charges were dropped at this one point. So, it's just like slippery slope here, and I'm just like, seriously? Especially when we learn what she did to Maya.
You just woke up? Yeah. Who's with you today? Yes. She's really interrupting because I hear her talking in the background. Mom? Yes. You need to redirect. I will redirect. I'm just telling you this is...
Oh, I'm sorry. Why is this conversation happening in a car with a windshield wiper going across the windshield? Do you have this child in a hospital or not? Like, what the fuck is happening right now?
My time with my daughter. Please redirect.
The part that gets me about this is when you hear these people talk, they're so condescending and just so, like they just know better, you know what I'm saying? And then to find out the whole time that it was just not what it was. You want to talk about fire ants in my veins.
She told me that my mom was in a mental institution. She told me that she was going to end up adopting me.
Can you imagine a child hearing those things? It's already scary enough, and these strangers are coming in. Remember, you're just there, right? And when you hear how isolated they made her, and then you're hearing this, can you imagine? Can you imagine? It's horrible. Let's refer back to that article for a second and read another little snippet of it to dig a little deeper. So it says the state's shelter order was revised to allow Jack some visitation rights and permit Beata to contact Maya by phone and video. video. But by December, hospital staff were imposing additional restrictions at their own discretion. Maya's social worker, Kathy Betty, declined several of Beata's FaceTime calls, which went from daily to once a week. Several aunts and uncles offered to supervise Jack's appearances, but they were all rejected by all children for appearing to be emotionally vested in the family. As administrators later said, 2 teachers who had been making the drive from Venice to St. Petersburg to tutor Maya were barred, and she stopped receiving educational instruction. Even the family priest was denied access to her floor. Okay, y'all,
God.
this is the part right here that I'm like, why are y'all punishing her to this degree? Her, Maya. Now, obviously, the family as well, right? But when I'm reading this, I'm like, this poor little girl, it breaks my heart. She's in this hospital room, ripped.
Oh my God, you guys. If they tried to incarcerate me in a hospital for having the condition that I have, I would fucking lose it. Oh my God.
From her family. Can't even get the priest in there. I mean, my God. I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm flabbergasted at it. You know, and it's like, oh, we didn't want the aunts and uncles to come and supervise. They're emotionally invested in the family. It's their family. You know what I'm saying? You would hope they would be, right? I mean, come on. And then denying them other phone calls, that's the part that gets me right there. There's lots of parts that get me, but to deny the mother all that right there. And then if you look at both sides of it, like that one phone call we just listened to where the mom was like, who's with you? And the daughter says, Kathy, because as soon as she started saying that, I was like, oh, Beata, don't say that. You know what I mean? Like my heart, it's like, don't say it, Beata, don't say it. Now, mind you, it was almost like this. What I'm thinking is what Beata said. You know what I'm saying? Like what's going through my mind? Because I would have been like that too. When she said Kathy's here, I would have been like, oh, God, can't roll my eyes hard enough. She's being too loud. Tell her to shut up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. You know, but that's where I was like, oh, Beata, don't say it. It's just gonna, it's so frustrating. All right, so let's keep going.
Yeah, Kathy Beatty came over to my bed and she was like, if you want to go to the court hearing, I have to do this.
The risk management made the decision to have these pictures taken of Maya?
Yep. She removed my clothes.
She was in her sports bra and a pair of shorts.
Held me down.
Y'all, this is very similar to what Kathy was already in trouble for in the past, okay? Way more violent in the past situation, but this was just like that too. Again, this is a child who you're forcing down and taking their clothes. I mean, are you kidding me? If you want to see your mom, this is what has to happen. We're going to assault you and then take you to the hospital, to the court. I mean, it was like, prisoners get treated better than that. Prisoners get treated better than that. Okay, so let's refer to the article again to go a little bit deeper. A week later in January 2017, just before Maya was to travel from the hospital to another hearing, Betty and a nurse entered her room and told her to take her clothes off. The hospital's risk management department wanted photos of her taken before the proceeding. Maya refused to cooperate, even when Betty told her that if she didn't, she wouldn't be allowed to go to the courthouse and see her mother. Betty began to forcibly remove her pants and shirt. Maya wrote an account of it that was later included in a legal filing. I was crying and saying, no, stop, Maya wrote. But she wouldn't stop. Betty pinned me face down, and either she or the nurse took photos of me in my training bra and shorts. The Kowalskis later learned that Betty had been fired from a previous position managing foster care children for Suncoast when she was arrested and charged with child abuse. 4 fellow Suncoast employees called the police after they watched Betty pin a 10-year-old boy to the ground with her knees and cover his face with a blanket as he cried out that he couldn't breathe. In a deposition, she denied using her knees on the child. She declined to comment for this article. Well, they have some...
Why? Why, America? Why do we keep allowing people like this to have leadership roles and abuse people? We've seen so many abuse cases this year alone. This is so fucking disgusting. Why? Why did this happen?
Real winners working for them. I mean, this is the thing that gets me. These people that are in these positions of power that clearly have no business being there, right? Not only do they have no business being there, but they abuse their position and abuse others, but then accuse others of doing the same thing. It's literally like a gaslighting jamboree. And now look, Cynthia will admit in depositions that, yeah, Maya didn't want these pictures taken of her, but they did it anyways. They didn't contact the parents beforehand. And now, remember, like I said, at this point, they're Maya's everything in the hospital, right? So they are putting these people in charge of her that are doing these things to her. And this is the part that gets me too. Maya spends Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthday, I mean, you name it, everything was taken from her. And so it's like these people that are doing this stuff to her, it's like, this is who you're spending your holidays around. And I mean, I don't know if she specifically said spend the holiday around this woman, but you know what I'm saying? It's not an environment for a child. Now, I want to look at a clip here of Kathy talking about Maya's pain and that kind of a thing, and basically saying like, oh, it's getting better and she's doing this. But Maya would testify, look, my pain looked different every single day, right? That's just a disease. It's never the same.
When we look at pain and when I see kids in pain, Maya never showed some of the symptoms that we see other kids in pain having.
Now, here's the thing. I don't know who's sitting.
She doesn't understand the condition. She doesn't understand it. It shifts around. The pain transfers. Sometimes it's rolling up the middle of my thigh. Sometimes it's rolling up the back of my thigh more so. Like, there are certain places that intensify. Sometimes it's my lower back. Sometimes it's my hips. Sometimes it's my calf. Sometimes it's my toes. Sometimes it's my feet. It shifts around. This is a weird ass condition that we have. And apparently they haven't studied enough up on it to tell us what it is.
In this room and looking or whatever, but her eye contact and the averting of the eyes and blah, 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 and I'm like, yes, something doesn't feel right. One thing that I see in this is where people are so confident of themselves and their ability, like, you know, Sally Smith, like, oh, I know a second of it's a child, I can talk to them in 5 seconds flat. I mean, she didn't say that, but you know what I'm saying? And then her right here, oh, I've seen other children in pain. This wasn't, no, not mine. This wasn't the same thing. You know, and it's just like, I get there's one-off scenarios, and maybe her condition was like this one-off scenario, but it's the fact that everyone just went on their whole thing of, nope, I know everything, and nope, we're writing this off as A, B, and C, and you're done. Now, look, this whole process, it goes on and on and on. Court dates and this and that and blah, 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 blah. Maya's not getting any better. You know, things are continuing to go on, but then it gets worse. Now, at one court date, when they go, basically, you know, they're like, look, could Maya at least hug her mother? And the judge is like, no, you know, we can't at this point. Wow. And that's when things got worse. So January 2017, there was a party in the neighborhood. Now remember, Maya's at the hospital. She's doing that thing. So it's just the mom, the dad, the brother. And they're supposed to be going. And so Beata's basically like, I have a migraine. I'm just going to stay behind, but I'll wrap the gifts. Y'all go do your thing. So that's what happens. Well, when they come home, the bedroom door is closed. And so they think in their mind, like, oh, she's taking a nap. Let's just leave her be. So dad and son kind of like go about doing their thing. Well, then a little bit later, the brother, Beata's brother, comes over. And he's like doing something in the house or whatever. He goes into the garage. And the father would say, we just heard this like blood-curdling scream. And he finds Beata hanging in the garage. Oh. She has taken her life. Now, they would contribute. This is essentially like her breaking point was she couldn't hug Maya. And that was just like, I'm done. And this is, I don't see a way out of this to help her to get what she needs and to make it through my pain of this, still being here on this plane, on this earth.
I know this is what happened. I know it's because he turned her down. That killed her. All the way home, that's all she talked about.
So Beata left a note, and I want to just put a couple of the screenshots of it up here and read off of those. So it says here from Beata Kowalski, subject letter for Judge Lee Hallworth. Your heart is made out of iceberg. By taking the side of ACH and DCF, you have destroyed my family, my marriage, you have put us in bankruptcy, and you still denied me to see my daughter in court today. Subject, goodbye draft. Please take care of Maya and tell her how much I love her every day. Please tell Kyle also that I love him very much, and that I hope he grows up to be a strong, good man, has great future, and stays close to God. I'm sorry, but I no longer can take the pain being away from Maya and being treated like a criminal. I cannot watch my daughter suffer in pain and keep getting worse. Whew. Okay, so, wow, heavy, right? I mean, I'm a little bit speechless, which that's odd for me, right?
I think, from what I've read, most suicides are, that people feel that the pain will never go away. And they're in an inescapable situation. And it's not that they're trying to hurt the people around them. It's not trying to make a statement. It's that they're trying to just end their pain at that point. That the pain is insufferable.
The sad part, the scary part, by her no longer being in the picture, it changes the dynamics of everything.
Shortly after Beata's death, they allowed me to take Maya to go see a specialist in Rhode Island, Dr. Chopra. He did an evaluation on her, which did confirm that she does have CRPS. And he sent his report to the court. Not too much longer after that, Maya was released.
Does that not rip your heart out? Oh, whoops, sorry, she does have that. Okay, she can go home now.
Oh,
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Now again, would this have gone this way with the mother still in the picture? I don't know, and I'm not saying the mother was causing something, but I'm saying the hospital was looking at like, the mother's the one doing this, and blah, 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 blah. Now that she's gone, okay, well, this changes the dynamic. Absolute unnecessary tragedy. Now, of course, with this came rules. She was not allowed these ketamine treatments. It wasn't just like, oh, okay, you can go home, bye. Yeah, I mean, they instilled some rules and whatnot, like some kind of a little plan or whatever. So there was that. And slowly over time, like she did a bunch of physical therapy and all this, she slowly began to improve. So, now, let's fast forward a little bit, right? This is...
What did I say? Physical therapy. Gotta get some physical therapy. It's not going to make it perfect for you if you have this condition, but it will at least strengthen you and help you deal with the pain.
Essentially the story that we've gone through. Let's fast forward to kind of like where we're at, not really now with the court case, but what kind of got more into this. So years later, a reporter, Deborah Chen, she discovers this story and she starts looking into it and she's like, huh, what? You know, let me report on this. Now this time, Dr. Smith is still like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like this was, no, that is what it is.
But what I found out was that Dr. Smith's opinions differed a lot from other doctors, including Maya's care team, Dr. Kirkpatrick, and Dr. Hannah.
So as we already know, her opinions were completely different, right? Remember, they're sitting here saying A, B, and C took place, right? At least at this stage of the game. So this starts to begin the process of exposing, you know, and being like, well, this doesn't sound right, and that doesn't sound right. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Now, let's go on to another clip from that article, and, well, dig a little deeper. Smith, who retired this summer, tended to interpret cases aggressively. Children in Pinellas are removed from their homes at one of the highest rates of Florida's 67 counties. And Smith said this is because the child protection team she directed does a more thorough, high-quality job. For one of her lectures, she prepared a slideshow of several different photographs that goes on or whatever. But the main point was that part right there. So here's the thing. This article comes out that Deborah Research reported on. And in the documentary, she's like, oh, I thought this was just kind of go on to my next story or whatever. Well, all these families start coming out with these stories, just like Maya's, of, yeah, you know what? We're at home. This emergency happens with our child. We do what we thought you were supposed to do. We take them to the hospital. And, I mean, in some of these cases, I'm talking people sitting in jail. I mean, it's like insane. And they're like, next thing we know, we're accused of child abuse. And it's just their lives spiral.
And one thing that they all had in common was Dr. Sally Smith and Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital.
So, like I said, these people would go into the emergency room with something, oftentimes speaking with her for just a few minutes, thinking she worked at the hospital, thinking she was a staff, whatever, and then they're in handcuffs, or just like we saw with Maya, like, this is going on. Again, kudos to you if you're stopping true child abuse, right? But when it's to the point where you're absolutely destroying families, like, to this degree, no. Something needs to be reevaluated. The way they're going about things needs to be looked at, but also accountability. But we'll talk about that more in a minute. Let's watch the next clip.
I do almost all of the evaluations for children who are admitted to All Children's Hospital for the last 30 years. I'm very reasonable, generally compassionate, caring person, and I don't set out each day to tear families apart.
I'm a compassionate, caring person. I can't roll my eyes hard enough at that. And don't mean to sit here and just be over the top, because I think what happened, maybe she was at some point, but after you've seen enough stuff, it's almost like if you're erring on the side of ignoring other people in your field and kind of looking at it like, I'm the go-to, I'm the final say, this is not good. This is not good. Not when it results in damaging families like this. Now, again,
she didn't even work for the hospital. She didn't even work for the hospital. What business did she have being in that hospital and misrepresenting herself? Arrest that woman. Lock her up.
for the cases where it saves the child, absolutely awesome. But there just needs to be more of a check and balance in place when one person has this much power. Let's refer back to the article to go a little bit deeper and hear about one person's experience. When Smith entered the room, Vivian assumed she was another all-children's physician, and they spoke for 10 minutes. In her recollection, Vivian mentioned that Jeremy had been able to remain calm when the EMTs were first examining the baby, and Smith grew suspicious. She asked why Jeremy had not been frantic, and Viviana explained that Jeremy was a paramedic himself and was accustomed to emergencies. Smith decided that Jeremy was an abuser. Although the baby had no bruises anywhere on his body, Smith concluded that he had been slammed on a soft surface and that the head trauma was inflicted. 2 days later, she sent her evaluation to DCF. Jeremy was charged with aggravated child abuse, a felony punishable by up to 30 years in prison. Smith disputes Viviana's account. But there's case after case of this where I'm like, how are you determining this in 10 minutes and sending someone away? You see where, imagine when somebody has this kind of power and you talk to them the wrong way, or you talk to their friend on the staff, you know what I'm saying, the staff member that's from whatever, the wrong way. Look at how this can go. Humans are humans. Bias is bias. You can't tell me that doesn't interfere with this. So now remember, this is the current court case going on right now, right? Remember that Beata was a nurse, and she had a different perspective on things.
Beata was a nurse, not a lawyer. But somehow she knew what the hospital was doing. She documented everything. Every email, every writing, every phone call. And all of that documentation is the reason we can sue.
Good on her. And y'all, I know it's that whole lesson of document, make notes. It sucks to do it, but when you see stuff like this and how much she documented and was able to track this and the lies and this kind of stuff, again, it's why they can sue. It's why they're in court. It's why they're going to hopefully make a difference.
This young girl, Maya, represents hope for all of us. And bringing Sally Smith down, bringing the system down.
Now, this was one of the people who we read about in the article there. And like she said, Maya represents hope. But Maya's family is one of the only ones that's able to go toe-to-toe and do this court battle. Can you imagine suing a hospital? You already know, right? These are massive corporations, right? Yeah. So Maya's family is the only one that can go up there. And so, like she says, she represents hope, but also change, right? Because only until accountability is held can change come forth. And even then, sometimes it doesn't.
I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. The last time I was in a hospital, I was medically abducted for 3 months. I just can't go to doctors. I hate going to doctors. I hate going to hospitals.
Now, in this clip, this is Maya describing her feeling towards the hospital. Don't blame her. You know, she goes off and it gets super upset. Like, you know, she gets really triggered during these depositions and testimony. Don't blame her. Again, the fact that she's able to do it, I mean, this is a strong young lady here, okay? It gives me goosebumps because to go through this as a child, we're not even getting into her diagnosis, okay? This is just the legal stuff she's been through. And the loss, obviously. To be able to go through this and then being currently in court now,
Well, and to go through the diagnosis, I can tell you from personal experience, it's very painful. Now, it sounds like her case is more extreme than mine, but I have had occasions where I'm down for like 3 days at a time, and I'm just completely dysfunctional. It's getting better, but I still live in pain every single day. And when it gets worse, it's hard. And it does get worse. It's cyclical.
I mean, that's one thing that really stuck out to me was her resilience and her ability to move forth. Because I kept finding myself saying this throughout the stages of her life being depicted in the documentary. Is I'm thinking back to when I was that age and I'm like, I can't imagine going through every level of thing that she's gone through at that age. My hat's off to her.
Hearing the nurses talk about me. She's a liar. She's a liar. Don't believe anything she said. She's not in pain. That's what they would say to me.
Now, can you imagine? You know what it's like? Nobody likes to be told they're a liar, but you know how it was like when you were a kid and somebody would be like, you're a liar, not telling the truth? It was like so frustrating when you knew you weren't or whatever. Okay, so something for real like this where she knows how she feels and she's listening to these people who have victimized her family, all this, and then being like, she's a liar, don't believe this. I mean, what a bunch of petty, small people. You know what I'm saying?
And recently, we started digging into the codes that Johns Hopkins used for billing the insurance companies. And we found out that they billed him for 3 months treatment for CRPS.
Go on, pick yourself up off the sofa after that one, Roscoe. Get on back up there. Remember I said earlier about the thing, as I keep this in mind, one of the things I said that about, they were billing them for treating the disease that they said she didn't have and was making up. Y'all, sign over the deed to the damn hospital right now, okay? Case closed. Sofa Squad has spoken, okay? When I saw that, y'all, I'm not lying. I researched anger management. I said, sign me up. And that's what I'm talking about because it upsets me so badly. I can't imagine living through it. You know, I'm just like, my God, again, just what a strong person Maya is. I mean, her whole family, obviously, you know, but just, I cannot imagine. I just cannot imagine. It's so frustrating, you know. And here's the thing, especially now, most of us have been to doctors, hospitals. Y'all know how insanely tricky hospital billing is and stuff, and how shady it is most of the time. Number one, how marked up it is, but number two, how much they inflate the costs, and also not just inflate, but like high. You know what I mean? Like it's confusing, right? So for all this, if I was like, y'all have been charging and treating her for this, are you kidding? Done. Now, again, the documentary will continue to go in depth into several of these cases and whatnot of lives that were destroyed and what happened with them all at the hands of Sally Smith in the hospital.
So when there is just one person whose word is like gold, opinions, interpretation, perspectives, bias starts to play in.
Amen. That's the reporter speaking who wrote the article, and kudos to her too for helping be part of exposing these people in the system. And just like she said, I mentioned it earlier, you know, people are people. There's going to be bias. And so when you give one person this much power, and clearly who uses bias and stuff like that, I mean, she comes in and decides somebody's hurt their child within moments. You know, and again, if it really happened, great if there's evidence, but what gets me with it is once the evidence shows otherwise, they don't relent from that. It's like, no, I know better than the evidence. No, you don't. Not every time. Now, here's the thing. On the note of that, let's watch what one of the victims does every year.
Since 2016, I've been writing Sally Smith a Christmas card with our family's picture on it. So she's reminded of a family that she tried to break apart, but didn't.
Girl, keep sending them. Every year send them. Send them to the hospital, too. I mean, I love that, right? Because they do need to be reminded of this is what you tried to destroy. I mean, I don't blame her at all. Now, here's the thing. This would go on. The battle to get to the trial.
And they killed the mom. They killed the mom. They killed her. They killed the mom.
We're seeing now went years and years and years. You already know the hospital pulled out every stop they could to avoid this. And so watching the documentary, I'm sitting here, I'm like, they actually were able to get to the courtroom. I mean, it's insane, y'all. You can only imagine what this did to the family.
It's never gonna end.
Now, this came after they went to court thinking we're going to trial tomorrow, and the hospital had pulled out another stop to postpone it indefinitely. And I was like, it gives me goosebumps because this is where I was like, that level of shock and disappointment as a teenager over and over and over. Oh my God, bless all their hearts. I just can't imagine.
But if we give up and shut our mouths, it's gonna happen again. It's just a matter of time.
And amen, brother, to that. This is the thing. This is accountability. This is what I'm talking about with a case like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and get comfy and just like kind of talk about it overall. Amen to the last thing he said. As far as accountability goes, it'll happen again. Now, he will be quoted as saying, you know, look, I get it too. You know what I mean? He's like, yes, things need to be reported, but they need to go about it a different way. So it's not like he's like, he gets it, right? He gets that they need to look out, and he thinks that they should. But just like we've kind of discussed here today, clearly there needs to be some checks and balances or something put in there. Now, here's the thing. So, like I said, this is currently in trial right now. It's been going on for a minute. It probably will continue to go on for a while. We're going to start watching more of it. Now, I've watched bits of it along the way, but I'm going to kind of start back from the beginning. And, you know, report back to the squad or whatever. Now, Sally and Suncoast, or that whole end of things or whatever, you know, they were part of the lawsuit. They sued several of these people, John Hopkins, all these people. Suncoast already settled on that end of things, right? I think it was like for a few $1 million or something. And so now they're going up for the secondary part of it, like, you know, John Hopkins part of the trial. So when I watched this, now again, like I said, I was like, oh my God, you know, it has me angry, it has me crying, it has this. Y'all, at the end of the documentary, Maya reads this letter. Oh my God, y'all. I'm talking blubbering about it. I needed the Dixie plate, wherever it was. Okay, y'all, I mean, it was like, it was a lot, right? And not in a bad way, obviously, but it was just so emotional to hear that. Because again, I just kept going back to, this is a child. I mean, I know she's a young adult now, but nonetheless, when this happened, I just was like, my God. You know, it was just absolute insanity. Basically, what I'm saying is, watch the documentary in full. You know, that you just saw a few of the things here. Mm-hmm. It's definitely worth watching. I mean, you'll be riveted just because you're like, what? I mean, this goes on. Like, you know, this is a big name like John Hopkins, you know, kind of a thing. Now, obviously, they're left, you know, the mother's gone. There's the brother, Maya, the father, you know, and obviously other family members and whatnot. So my thing is this, you know, again, like I said, absolutely all down for if you see something, say something, and, you know, let's rectify the stuff that we already see take place where no one reports or CPS drops the ball and that kind of a thing, you know, but having one person, you know, especially with a privatized, child welfare system, I'm like, seriously? And then this one person wields this much power and everybody like just refers to what she says. I'm like, no, why do we still have this? Why? It seems like every day this type of thing is exposed. And I mean, maybe there's so much of that going on that we're in this constant level of exposing this. Mm-hmm. And in years to come, we can start seeing different positions, like ones like this, whatever, just being in such that there's someone to check on each other to hold people accountable so this doesn't happen. When I was listening to the stories of the variety of people, there's one guy who, he spent 300 days in jail. Life destroyed. I think it was the one that we saw with Viviana talking, and then charges were dropped. I mean, and other ones got out there talking about, I mean, their reputations were destroyed over just crazy stuff, and you're like, what? You know, how are they allowed to do this? And then if there's no level of reporting how many mistakes were made, like, why not? Why wouldn't you? Just to keep things in check. So that dynamic right there just has me like, again, it baffles me beyond belief. leave. I hope that they can get this behind them and obviously move on, but heal as best as possible. Because just watching the documentary, I was like, this is their life ever since she was, I forget how old she was, like what, 11? This has been Maya's life, right? Now, obviously, it's going to always be her mother's no longer here. And then just look at the damage, the trauma. I mean, like she was saying, she doesn't want to go to hospital. Imagine what it's going to be like when she gets older. And you know how like when you're young, you don't have to go to the doctors as much. Now she might have to go more regularly because of her condition. But like for me, it was like not until I was older. Hold on, Roscoe wants to get down. That I had to go more often and stuff like that. It's like, you know, when you're in a position of like, look, stuff goes on. Imagine the distrust you would have for after this experience. You know, it's already a scary thing to be rolling up in the hospital and doctors, stuff like that, and then to have this happen, medically abducted. And to me, the word she used, I'm quoting her, perfect, right? I mean, literally. So that's it. I want to know what you think. Now, again, this is coming from the perspective of I have not started watching the trial from start to finish. I want to start the documentary. Now, I'm not saying don't tell me, but just know that that's my perspective, because you might be like, oh, Paul, you didn't hear this.
Yeah, this is a terrible story. I don't have Netflix right now, so I can't watch it. But I do suffer from the same condition. And this is a terrifying story that they took advantage of a child like this because they just didn't understand what it was. But it's even more shocking that they actually billed the insurance company under complex regional pain syndrome when they weren't even treating her for it. That's so fucked up. That's so much. I can't. You know, I've had my own struggles with the medical system over the last year and a half, and I have had struggles with my employer interrupting my income as a result of the fact that doctors don't know how to deal with it. This is a terrifying story. I salute you, Maya. I'm right there with you.